Hey, good morning. Today is another one of our first fives. So today's text is from Acts chapter 17. Honestly, it's one of my favorite stories in the New Testament. And the reason it's one of my favorite stories in the New Testament is I think it speaks to really every generation and every culture about how we invite people into a relationship with Jesus, how we talk to people about who he actually is. And so here's the story in which we find ourselves. It's Paul in Acts chapter 17, beginning with verse 16. Here's what the author says, the author of Acts. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was greatly distressed to see that the city was full of idols. So he reasoned in the synagogue with the Jews and the God-fearing Greeks, as well as in the marketplace, day by day with those who happened to be there. A group of Epicurean and Stoic philosophers began to dispute with him. Some of them asked, "What is this babbler trying to say?" Others remarked, "He seems to be advocating foreign gods." They said this because Paul was preaching the good news about Jesus and the resurrection. Then they took him and brought him to a meeting of the Areopagus, where they said to him, "May we know what this new teaching is that you are presenting? You're bringing some strange ideas to our ears, and we want to know what they mean." All the Athenians and the foreigners who lived there spent their time doing nothing but talking about and listening to the latest ideas. Paul then stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and said, "Men of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' Now what you worship as something unknown, I'm going to proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples built by hands. And he's not served by human hands as if he needed anything, because he himself gives all men life and breath and everything else. From one man he made every nation of men that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he determined the time set for them and the exact places where they should live. God did this so that men would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring. Therefore, since we are God's offspring, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by man's design and skill. In the past, God overlooked such ignorance, but now he commands all people everywhere to repent. For he set a day when he will judge the world with justice by the man he has appointed. He has given proof of this to all men by raising him from the dead. When they heard about the resurrection of the dead, some of them sneered, but others said, "We want to hear you again on this subject." At that, Paul left the council. A few men became followers of Paul and believed. Among them was Dionysius, a member of the Areopagus, also a woman named Damaris, and a number of others. So I love that story, if you get past my misreading of a couple of words there. But I love that story because it articulates for us a clear direction on how we help people come to know Jesus. If I were to go back to Acts chapter 2 and have you read Acts chapter 2 with me, you'd see Peter assumes they already know the scriptures. They already know the Old Testament. They already have that foundation. Paul is among a people where you cannot assume that. And so here's one of the things I would say to the church in America especially. We can't live as if Acts chapter 2 is true. We can't live as if people understand or know the Bible at all. We just can't do that. But what we can do is what Paul does in Acts chapter 17. We can look at the world around us. We can enter into the context and the lives of people we encounter. We can listen to their stories. We can come to know their lives and see the way that God intersects already. We can see how Jesus is already present in their life without trying to coerce them or argue with them. It's just Paul reasoned with them. And in fact, what Paul does so incredibly well is he looks and he says, I see you have this altar to this unknown God. What if you're unknown God, what if I can make him known? And not only what if I can make him known, but what if he was the God above all gods? And what if he was the God above all gods and he offered even new life? And what if he offered new life, not because he created it once long ago, although we believe that to be true, but what if he offers new life because he can give new life? And what if you and I can receive that new life? And so Paul really does this incredible job of articulating faith in Jesus in a way that people can actually understand and understand in their own context. And so maybe we should not presuppose so much in conversation with other people. We shouldn't assume they already have this foundation of who God actually is, that they've read the scriptures and they just need a tweaked understanding of the nature and character of God. What if we just assume they really don't know anything? And what if we begin to listen to how they already live, what they already know, and we saw the intersection of where God is already at work there? And so that's my challenge for you and for me, that we wouldn't yell at people and try to beat them with the Bible, because that doesn't work. Honestly, it's like the worst way to try to evangelize someone in our day. It may have worked years ago, not arguing that, but I will tell you this, it's not working today. What is working is what Paul did here, is when you enter into someone's story and you begin to hear about their life and you ask questions about what they already believe, and then you begin to see the way God maybe is at work or has weaved himself in the midst of their life story. And you invite them into a deeper way of life, a way of living that leads to true life, a way of living that leads to the depth of knowing that you are loved and known in Jesus. So here's my challenge for you and I. Let's make sure evangelism is a part of our life, but let's do it because we genuinely care about people. Let's do it because we love them. And let's do it not from Acts chapter 2, but let's do it from Acts chapter 17. And we'll find that God may be able to use us more and more when we live that way. And we'll catch you next time for another First Five.